Good afternoon and welcome to the Rundown. I'm your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 19th of January. Jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny urges Russians to take to the streets. And President Donald Trump, just moments before President-elect Joe Biden is to be sworn in, there are reports that Trump is to issue more than 100 pardons. The president has been warned against self-pardoning, according to White House officials. And among those asking for clemency or to be pardoned is former Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh, who's among one of the people seeking clemency from President Donald Trump before he leaves office. And New York City has paid an NBA star millions after the NYPD officer broke his leg. The officer paid little consequence. When are they going to be held accountable? Asked the NBA guard. New reports had found out that New York has paid more than $1 billion in recent years to settle suits against officers who are rarely punished. And no one took her seriously. Black officers warned about racist Capitol Police officers for years. Allegations of racism against Capitol Police are nothing new. Over 250 black cops have sued the department since 2001. Some of these former officers now say it's no surprise white nationalists were able to storm the building. And Ayanna Pressley's chief of staff says that her office's panic button had been torn out before the Capitol riots. And a cyclist's family makes a plea to find the killer who rammed a carjacked vehicle into him during a weekend ride. And lastly, a single anonymous donor gives $40 million to fund 50 civil rights lawyers. Let's get to the news. And in international news, jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny on Monday urged Russians to take to the streets in protest at his treatment in a video clip released after a judge ordered he be remanded to a pretrial detention center for 30 days. Do not be afraid, he said. Take to the streets. Don't go out for me. Go out for yourself and for your future, Navalny said in a video posted to YouTube. Navalny was detained at the Moscow airport on Sunday after flying home for the first time since he was poisoned last summer. The United Nations and Western nations told Russia to immediately free the opposed politician. And so countries called for new sanctions on Russia. President Donald Trump is expected to issue more than 100 presidential pardons on Tuesday during his final hours in the White House, but may not pardon himself or his immediate family. It was reported on Monday that White House officials said Trump had privately debated with aides whether he should take the extraordinary steps to pardoning himself. Some administration insiders have reportedly warned against it, urging that it would make Trump look guilty. However, on Sunday, Trump met with his son-in-law Jared Kushner and daughter Ivanka Trump and senior advisors to hash out a lengthy list of pardon requests. The Washington Post has reported that the meeting took up much of the day. The president was personally engaged with the details on every case. Some scholars believe, however, that the self-pardon would go against the U.S. Constitution since it violates the basic principles that nobody should be able to judge their own case. It is not clear whether Trump will act to pardon members of his inner circle, including Steve Bannon, Rudy Giuliani, and many others that he has not pardoned already. And speaking of people who are looking to be pardoned, former Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh is also looking to be pardoned. Convicted Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh is among those seeking clemency from President Donald Trump, as he reportedly prepares to issue the 100 pardons and commute his final full day in office on Tuesday. Pugh, who is 70 years old, is seeking to have her 3-year fraud sentence commuted, according to the database of clemency appeals in the U.S. Department of Justice website. Her case status is still listed as pending. CNN has reported that the White House held a meeting on Sunday to finalize the list of pardons. The White House had held a meeting on Sunday to finalize the list, as I've already reported, which the outlet says that it expected that to include a mixture of criminal justice reform, minded pardons, and more controversial ones to secure political allies. The former Baltimore police commissioner, who is currently a radio host on 105.7, The Fan, also is seeking clemency from President Donald Trump, who had spent 6 months in prison after pleading guilty in a 2004 federal corruption and tax charges. All these people seeking for the last-ditch effort for President Donald Trump. Now, my question is, I wonder if they, too, have to pay the $2 million or something to Donald Trump in order to receive these pardons. Because if it is, in fact, everybody pays the $2 million, that's about 100 people paying $2 million a pop. Wow. Somebody is about to get paid. But not to mention, this man has a lot of money to pay. So I would not be surprised. 5 years ago, NBA guard Thabo Sefolosha was standing outside of a nightclub when he was tackled by 5 New York City Police Department officers, one of whom broke his leg with a baton. However, Sefolosha sued the city, and it paid its largest settlement for an alleged police brutality in years. $4.5 million. After all, Sefolosha, who had to have surgery, couldn't play basketball for a year, and an injury that acquitted Sefolosha of the charges against him for allegedly resisting arrest. The whole incident had been caught on tape, but the payout didn't cost the officers a dime. There is where the accountability ended. The city had instead insisted that during the case the officers were blameless, and they ended up facing no significant punishment, which left Sefolosha frustrated. The settlement was a small victory, but the big picture, it's just a small drop. Sefolosha told ProPublica from his home in Switzerland. When are people going to be held accountable? New York City has paid more than $1 billion over the past 5 years in settlement lawsuits against the NYPD, according to data released by the city. ProPublica examined dozens of the biggest payouts in cases where civilians had also filed complaints, which the city agency that reviews allegations of police abuse again and again. The officers face minimal to no discipline. Under Mayor Bill de Blasio, his city has moved to limit payouts onto what the mayor described early in his administration as frivolous lawsuits against the NYPD, while the city has kept settling cases at roughly the same pace it had 5 years ago. ProPublica has said that the city has defended officers who seem to have lied or engaged in what was clearly misconduct. A spokesperson for the law department, which handles lawsuits, told ProPublica that each case has a unique fact pattern and is evaluated on its individual merit. The spokesperson emphasized that settlements are not an admission of wrongdoing on the part of the city or the police officer. The NYPD says that in a statement that the department carefully analyzes allegations in civil suits and corresponding evidence to assess the merits of the case. The department also told the paper that the number of lawsuits against the police and settlement payouts are drastically decreasing. However, according to the city reports, the number of claims filed against the NYPD declined by about 10% in 2019. Payouts have also dropped from $237 million in 2018 to $220 million the year later. Now, we don't know if, this is all kind of figures made up so it makes the department not look bad because of all of the police brutality that's been going on. But clearly, I think there is some number fudging here. But we shall see. But this brings up a good question. Once again, talking about police brutality and the police not being held accountable, because when even the lawsuits and the civil cases are filed, the police officers who actually commit the wrongdoing in many cases do not have to receive any punishment. It is all paid out through the city, which means you have the victim paying the victim for the police's misconduct, which makes no sense. I think if you start taking money from the actual police officers, they would actually think again about the misconduct that they are so freely willing to participate in. When Kim Dime took over as the new police chief for the U.S. Capitol Police back in 2012, he knew they had serious problems. Since 2001, hundreds of black officers had sued the department for racial discrimination. They alleged that white officers called black colleagues slurs like the N-word, and one officer even found a hanging noose in his locker. White officers were called hunk lovers or frogs, short for friends of gangsters, if they were friendly with black colleagues. Black officers faced unprovoked traffic stops from fellow Capitol Police officers. One black officer claims that he heard a colleague say, "Obama monkey, go back to Africa." In case after case, agency lawyers denied wrongdoing, but in an interview, Dimes says that it was clear he had to address the department's charged racial climate. He said he promoted a black officer to assistant chief, the first for the agency, and tried to increase diversity by changing the force's hiring practices. He also said that he tried to hire a black woman to lead the diversity office and create a new disciplinary body within the department promoting a black woman to lead it. Whether the Capitol Police managed to root out racism, officers will be one of the many issues raised as Congress investigates the agency's failure to prevent the mob of Trump supporters from attacking the Capitol, while lawmakers inside voted on formalizing the electoral victory for President-elect Joe Biden. Police officers who possibly complicit with the insurrectionists, one of whom was pictured waving a Confederate battle flag as he occupied the building. One cop was captured on tape seeing to take selfies with protesters, while another allegedly wore a red "Make America Great Again" hat. He directed protesters around the Capitol building. While many officers were filmed fighting off rioters, at least 12 others are under investigation for possibly assisting the insurrectionists. Two current black Capitol Police officers told Bizarre Feed News that they were angered by the leadership's failures, that they said they put themselves at risk as racist members of the mob stormed the building. The Capitol Police Force is only 29% black in a city that has over 46% black residents. By contrast, as of 2018, 52% of Washington's Metropolitan Police officers are black. The Capitol Police are comparably to the Metropolitan Force in spreading employment to more than 200 and the Capitol Police are the Capitol Complete the Capitol Police the Capitol can I get it out? The Capitol Police comparable to the Metropolitan Force in spending employees more than 2,300 people and boasting its annual budget of about $500 million. The Capitol Police did not immediately respond to questions for this story. Representative Ayanna Pressley, a Democrat out of Massachusetts, her chief of staff recently said in an interview that the panic buttons she had previously used in the Congresswoman's office had been taken out before the violent riot at the U.S. Capitol last week. She revealed that information in a new interview to the Boston Globe published on Wednesday, in which she recounted her experience the day of the riot. Her chief of staff says Pressley and her husband had arrived at the Capitol earlier that day after the House segment at arms urged lawmakers to do so to avoid large crowds, as hundreds of the president's supporters had flocked to D.C. to oppose November's election results. It wasn't long after, however, that a pro-Trump mob overtook the U.S. Capitol as Congress was gearing up to certify the votes by Electoral College to affirm his defeat to the presidential candidate, President-elect Joe Biden. Around that time, She recalls that she discovered the officer's panic button had been removed while she was under. Around the time that she discovered that the office panic button had been removed while she and other staffers were working to secure the office's entrance using available furniture and water jugs. In a statement to The Hill later on Wednesday, a spokesperson for Presley said that the matter had been raised with the relevant agencies and is currently under investigation. The representative said that the duress button had previously been installed throughout the Congresswoman's office suite. The safety of the Congresswoman, her family, and other staff remain our top priority, and at the direction of the Congresswoman, the Sergeant-at-Arms oversaw the installation of a new distress button throughout the office following the attack. The Hill has reached to the Sergeant-at-Arms office at the U.S. Capitol. The revelation adds to the growing list of concerns about security at the Capitol after the deadly January 6th riot. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spoke out about the issue on Twitter early Wednesday, saying that the revelations of the Chief of Staff of Ayanna Pressley began to pick up traction on social media comes as the federal and state officials are working to boost law enforcement presence in the nation's capital, as numbers of right-wing groups have vowed to target the Capitol next week when President-elect Joe Biden is inaugurated. The family of a 46-year-old Los Angeles man is pleading for help after he was hit and killed by a carjacking suspect on Saturday. Brandon Finley was riding his bike in an area of the 7th Street and Oliver Street downtown Los Angeles when he was hit from behind, according to the LA Police Department Central Traffic Division. The father of two landed on the hood of the truck, and the suspect, who police say had stolen the pickup truck he was driving, did not stop. Brandon fell off the hood of the truck about 150 feet from where he was hit, and bystanders tried to help him, but he was pronounced dead at the scene, police say. The suspect eventually was involved in a second crash with two vehicles and fled the scene on foot, according to police. Brandon's family is now asking for any information that could lead to the identification of the person who hit him. A $50,000 reward is being offered for information leading to the suspect's arrest. Police described the suspect as a male who is about 5 feet and 6 inches tall and about 150 to 160 pounds. He was last seen wearing black pants and barefoot. According to police, the suspect may also have injuries to his head from hitting the windshield during the second collision. A GoFundMe has been set up to help Brandon's family's funeral arrangements and to support his daughters. Just raised over $20,000 for its goal of $30,000. Hey, this is Captivating Christian here to remind you to tune in to Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. The NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund launched a $40 million scholarship program on Monday to support a new generation of civil rights lawyers dedicated to pursuing racial injustice across the South, with a whopping gift from a single anonymous donor. The funds plan to put more than 50 students through law school around the country. In return, they must commit to at least 8 years of racial justice work in the South, starting with a 2-year postgraduate fellowship in the Civil Rights Organization. Indeed, the LDF has been backing civil rights lawyers ever since its founding by Thurgood Marshall back in 1940, during the era when Black people rarely had effective legal representation, and Black students were turned away from the Southern universities. It funds the creation of Black and interracial law firms in several Southern states in the 1960s and 70s. The NAACP chose Martin Luther King Day to announce the Marshall Motley Scholarship Program, named after the Supreme Court Justice and the Constant Baker Motley, who was an LDF attorney just a few years out of Columbia University Law School when she wrote the initial complaint that led to the court Brown versus the Board of Education ruling outlawing racial segregation in public schools. She later became the first Black woman to be a federal judge. Education inequality, impediments on voting, racial and economic injustice, the policing crisis, and confronting the resurgence of an overt white supremacy are just some of the challenges these lawyers will face. The NAACP shared a statement from Cissy Marshall, the justice's 92-year-old widow, who said that the fund is especially meaningful to her because of Thurgood's powerful partnership with lawyers across the South who served with him as a counsel so many civil rights cases could be fought. And be sure to join Jay Wilson, Rebel Son, The Official Kingpin, Conscious TV, and Captivating Christian this and every Thursday at 6:45 Central Standard Time, 7:45 Eastern Standard Time for the Gentleman's Panel. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.